Hey, everybody. Welcome to the shores of Casco Bay. Shark behind me. There, that's Cape Elizabeth. It's not where I am, but I'm a little bit further down the coast. But I was straying through the YouTubes and I came across a video of a Star Trek episode that apparently is based on this story by Urusla K. Guin. The name of her Ursula K. Le Guin's story is The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. Now, Omelas is a paradise of a city. No hurt, no illness, no decay. But it comes at a price. I'm just going to read a little bit of this, a little bit of it. The end of the story, basically. Most of the processions had reached the green fields by now. A marvelous smell of cooking goes forth from the red and blue tents of the provisioners. The faces of small children are amiably sticky. In the benign gray beard of a man, a couple of crumbs of rich pastry are entangled. The youths and girls have mounted their horses and are beginning to group around the starting line of the course. An old woman, small, fat, and laughing, is passing out flowers from a basket, and tall young men wear her flowers in their shining hair. A child of 9 or 10 sits at the edge of the crowd alone, playing a wooden flute. People pause to listen, and they smile, but they do not speak to him, for he never ceases playing and never sees them, his dark eyes wholly wrapped in the sweet thing magic of the tune. He finishes and slowly lowers his hands holding the wooden flute, as if that little private silence were the signal. All at once a trumpet sounds from the pavilion near the starting line, imperious, melancholy, piercing. The horses rear on their slender legs, and some of them neigh in answer. Sober-faced, the young riders stroke the horses' necks and soothe them, whispering, "Quiet, quiet there, my beauty, my hope." They begin to form in rank along the starting line. The crowds along the race course are like a field of grass and flowers in the wind. The festival of summer has begun. Do you believe? Do you accept the festival, the city, the joy? No? Then let me describe one more thing. In a basement under one of the beautiful public buildings of Omelas, or perhaps in the cellar of one of its spacious private homes, there is a room. It has one locked door and no window. A little light seeps in dustily between cracks in the boards, secondhand from a cobwebbed window somewhere across the cellar. In one corner of the little room, a couple of mops with stiff, clotted, foul-smelling heads stand near a rusty bucket. The floor is dirt, a little damp to the touch, as cellar dirt usually is. The room is about 3 paces long and 2 wide, a mere broom closet or a disused tool room. In the room, a child is sitting. Could be a boy or a girl. It looks about 6, but it's actually nearly 10. It is feeble-minded. Perhaps it was born defective, or perhaps it has become imbecile enough through fear, malnutrition, and neglect. It picks its nose and occasionally fumbles vaguely with its toes or genitals as it sits hunched in the corner farthest from the bucket and the 2 mops. It is afraid of the mops. It finds them horrible. It shuts its eyes, but it knows that the mops are still standing there. And the door is locked, and nobody will come. The door is always locked, and nobody ever comes, except that sometimes the child has no understanding of time or interval. Sometimes the door rattles terribly and opens, and a person or several people are there. One of them may come in and kick the child to make it stand up. The others never come close, but peer in at it with frightened, disgusted eyes. The food bowl and water jug are hastily filled, and the door is locked, and the eyes disappear. The people at the door never say anything, but the child, who has not always lived in the tool room, can remember sunlight, and its mother's voice sometimes speaks. "I will be good," it says. "Please let me out. I will be good." They never answer. The child used to scream for help at night and cry a good deal, but now it only makes a kind of whining, and it speaks less and less often. It is so thin there are no calves to its legs. I should re-say that. It is so thin there are no calves to its legs. Its belly protrudes. It lives on a half bowl of cornmeal and grease a day. It is naked. Its buttocks and thighs are a mass of festered sores as it sits in its own excrement continually. They all know it is there, all the people of Omelas. Some of them have come to see it. Others are merely content to know it is there. They all know it has to be there. Some of them understand why, and some do not. But they all understand that their happiness, the beauty of their city, the tenderness of their friendships, the health of their children, the wisdom of their scholars, the skill of their makers, even the abundance of their harvest, and the kindly weathers of their skies depend wholly on this child's abominable misery. This is usually explained to children when they're between 8 and 12, whenever they seem capable of understanding. And most of those who come to see the child are young people, though often enough an adult comes or comes back to see the child. No matter how well the matter has been explained to them, these young spectators are always shocked and sickened at the sight. They feel disgust, which they had thought themselves superior to. They feel anger, outrage, impotence, despite all the explanations. They would like to do something for the child, but there's nothing they can do. If the child were brought up out into the sunlight, out of that vile place, if it were cleaned and fed and comforted, that would be a good thing indeed. But if it were done in that day and hour, all the prosperity and beauty and delight of Omelas would wither and be destroyed. Those are the terms. To exchange all the goodness and grace of every life in Omelas for that single small improvement. To throw away the happiness of thousands for the chance of happiness of one. That would be to let guilt within the walls, indeed. The terms are strict and absolute. There may not even be a kind word spoken to the child. Often the young people go home in tears or in a tearless rage when they've seen the child and faced this terrible paradox. They may brood over it for weeks or years. But as time goes on, they begin to realize that even if the child could be released, it would not get much good of its freedom. A little vague pleasure of warmth and food, no real doubt, but little more. It is too degraded and imbecile to know any real joy. It has been afraid too long to ever be free of fear. Its habits are too uncouth for it to respond to humane treatment. Indeed, after so long, it would probably be wretched without walls to protect it, and darkness for its eyes, and its own excrement to sit in. Their tears at the bitter injustice dry when they begin to perceive the terrible justice of reality and to accept it. Yet, it is their tears and anger, the trying of their generosity, and the acceptance of their helplessness, which are perhaps the true source of the splendor of their lives. Theirs is no vapid, irresponsible happiness. They know that they, like the child, are not free. They know compassion. It is the existence of the child and their knowledge of its existence that makes possible the nobility of their architecture, the poignancy of their music, the profundity of their science. It is because of the child that they are so gentle with children. They know if the wretched one were not there sniveling in the dark, the other one, the flute player, could make no joyful music as the young riders line up in their beauty for the race in the sunlight of the first morning of summer. Now, do you believe them? Are they not more credible? But there is one more thing to tell, and this is quite incredible. At times, one of the adolescent girls or boys who goes to see the child does not go home to weep or rage. That does not, in fact, go home at all. Sometimes also a man or woman much older falls silent for a day or two, then leaves home. These people go out into the street and walk down the street alone. They keep walking straight out of the city of Omelas through the beautiful gates. They keep walking across the farmlands of Omelas. Each one goes alone, youth or girl, man or woman. Night falls. The traveler must pass down village streets between the houses with yellow lit windows and on out into the darkness of the fields, each alone. They go west or north toward the mountains. They go on. They leave Omelas. They walk ahead into the darkness and they do not come back. The place they go towards is a place even less imaginable to most of us than the city of happiness. I cannot describe it at all. It is possible that it does not exist. But they seem to know where they're going, the ones who walk away from Omelas. Now that's the end of the story. It's a very short story. It's included in a collection of science fiction that the name escapes me at the moment. I probably look it up and add it to the comments below. The Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode fleshes this out some, but this itself is a fleshing out of this piece from William James, an essay on moral philosophy. And James wrote, if the hypothesis were offered us of a world in which messieurs Fourier and Bellamy's and Morris's utopias should all be outdone and millions kept permanently happy on the one simple condition that a certain lost soul on the far off edge of things should lead a life of lonely torture. What except a specificial and independent sort of emotion can it be which would make us immediately feel, even though an impulse arose within us to clutch at the happiness so offered, how hideous a thing would be its enjoyment when deliberately accepted as the fruit of such a bargain. And that's a thought. That's a thought. Are we making a bargain? Are we making a bargain wherein certain classes of people must be demeaned, denigrated, suffer, be mocked, be excluded from life for the sake of our own peace of mind, prosperity, security? Is that what we're doing with burning books, keeping literature out of the hands of children, children who should maybe be reading, the ones who walk away from Omelas, or for that matter, William James? Is this obscenity in Florida to teach compassion? Is this something we rely on to keep the security of the many sacrosanct, while the very few are pushed to the margins of society and beyond? I think it's worth thinking about as we casually toss lives aside, casually ignore feelings, brutally exclude people from the public sphere when they could be contributing their own special joys and happiness to the society they truly deserve to belong to. I think I'll be thinking, and I think I'll be appreciating those who will walk away from Omelas. And those who will perhaps resist the cruelty that keeps the illusion of truth, happiness, etc. Alive for the many at the expense of the few. That's all I got today. Have a great weekend. It's almost May.